Hello, my name is Rozanne Banicki, and I'm a senior at Meredith College majoring in interior design. This semester, the Interior Design Studio 4 class is working on the Steelcase competition project from last winter, the fictional Next Hub Education Center. We're working through the design process throughout the semester, and I'll walk through my project during this presentation. Here's how I'll present this material. We start with programming, and it is very research heavy. I looked into the purpose of the new space, requirements set by the customer, the building type, location, accessibility, etc., to understand the general overview of the problem presented to us. This information will be discussed as I develop what I've done in this project. Here you can see the Next Hub's goal is to provide a community lifelong learning center. The Hub will give students access to a premier education at many stages of one's life, providing active and diverse educational experiences. It's about encouraging more meaningful faculty interactions, increasing student engagement, and connection to others. You can see how they intend to implement this by the list of spaces that they want to include in this project. They have an immersive learning center, a makerspace, tutoring areas, and in-between spaces, just to name a few. These spaces will all reinforce both active and passive learning. And looking at the building, we can see that it was located in an up-and-coming neighborhood in Washington, D.C. It's a multi-use historical building, which means we are only using a portion of the building, which will be the 10th and the 11th floors. Next, we looked into some case studies. These case studies happen to understand how colleges and universities are working to improve student learning and life now. We want to keep up to date on how we're designing things. So I looked into some recent projects that were recently completed at the University of Massachusetts Amherst, Rockefeller University, and Harvard University. The overall goals of the UMass project were to update the historical building to meet current regulations and ADA requirements, increase energy efficiency, and create collaborative spaces for faculty and staff. These efforts earned the university the LEED Gold certification, which is not an easy feat. Included in this were thermally improving the existing building, low energy insulated glazing, energy recovery ventilators, occupancy sensors, use of high efficiency LED light fixtures, and a continuous green housekeeping program, all while preserving the historical legacy of the building and surroundings. Rockefeller University wanted to update the Welch Hall Library and Student Center by updating the fixtures and finishes, replacing old windows, cleaning the outside of the building, and creating new areas for students. Now, this sounds too exciting, but it made a huge impact to the student population and how the school is seen in the community. The Welch Library also received gold level LEED certification from the upgrades and improvements made, like replacing windows, updating the old cork flooring with new cork flooring, refurbishing the historic main reading room, just to name a few. As you can see here in the pictures of the outside of the building and a picture of that reading room, which they updated. Harvard University wanted to create a space that was inviting to the community, not just to the students. In their Smith Campus Center, they created spaces that had no real purpose in hopes the community would come in and use those spaces also. All these spaces were created to enhance the collaboration of students and faculty along with the public. Collaboration can be conducted in less formal situations and closer to nature, which are known to be mentally beneficial and stimulating. They planted trees and foliage in a small glass enclosed room, which was open to the elements from overhead, so that everyone could connect with nature, because we know this is beneficial to our health. They also use daylighting to light spaces during the day. Daylighting is where they have windows that allow daylight to penetrate as far into a building as possible in an effort to save electricity, improve mood, and mental stimulation. Now, as I read through the requirements of each space, To create my adjacency matrix, a few things stood out to me as very important to remember when designing the project. As you can see here, daylighting, acoustic privacy, and in-between spaces. Daylighting, as I previously mentioned, should not have been too difficult since the front of the building has a wall of windows. However, that can create an issue also with where to place walls in that big open area. Next, acoustic privacy was important. I used this requirement to determine which spaces to put on each floor. The 11th floor has the areas that they would prefer to have acoustic privacy. They also required in-between spaces throughout all of these rooms. These areas will provide spaces for students to wait, study, or for social purposes. These will all be looked at when developing this project. Next, I created multiple relationship diagrams, which we also know as bubble diagrams. These are my two strongest options. I chose the first one as it best reflects the requirements in this project and the spaces fit best on both floors. I show here which spaces need natural light, views, acoustic privacy, adjacencies, which are what needs to be located next to each other. This is how I worked to place my rooms within the space provided. Next, the class collaboratively conducted the ever-critical codes research because designers must always comply with all state, local, and federal regulations. We focused on business occupancy requirements, ADA, and fire codes. Most of that information will be used later in the schematic design phase when we're choosing finishes, furnishings, things like that. I combined the codes information we learned and my adjacency diagrams to create my blocking diagrams. I color-coded these diagrams on general groupings: education spaces, social spaces, faculty spaces, mother's room and childcare, circulation, and finally, the space that's not included in the contract, which is in the upper left in red. That included stairwells, a couple extra small rooms, closets, and elevators. On the right side, you can see how my floors relate to each other and the spaces relate on each floor. The next phase is concept development. More research was conducted during this phase to help develop my concept for the project. I found imagery, which I analyzed to see why I was drawn to these images, specifically looking at elements and principles of design. I also looked into learning theories and how I can use the design to aid learning, and I consider multiple user journeys to see how to create a logical flow of spaces. Using elements and principles of design, I will focus on creating rhythm through use of strong lines and repetition. Variety will be created in the use of multiple types of seating, sections, and use of colors. My color scheme was developed after looking at the meanings, connotations, and emotional qualities of each color. Green is a reminder of nature and is generally a soothing color. Blues are more peaceful colors. Orange fosters innovation, excitement, encouragement, and warmth. So we'll need a balance of these. Browns, which I feel are usually just looked past because they're, well, brown, provide a solid foundation and stability. Together, I will use these colors to enhance the best educational experience possible. Next, for the learning theories, I looked at the biophilic theory, humanistic design, and engagement theory of learning. Biophilic design has made strong presence in the last couple of years as we learn how nature impacts and affects our well-being and mental stability. This is pulling nature into the environment so that we can see it, be close to it, or even just to use things that look like nature within it, like a print on the materials. Humanistic design is where we use smart products, like remote controls for window coverings, automatic temperature controls, smartphones to connect to the educational experience and services, like different apps where someone else does something for you so you don't have to do it in an effort to support your daily lives. And finally, engagement level of learning starts with the teaching style and how different teaching styles create different environments, and those environments lead to an intrinsic motivation of students to learn. I will use each of these theories to help me when deciding how to develop my project. We also had to focus on or look into user journeys throughout our space. I'm only including the one that I thought really helped with developing the flow of students throughout the space. Here I created a causal diagram that showed where the student could be expected to go depending on what the student wants to do next. As you can see, the dark green arrow is the standard for a student that's coming to school to go to a class and leave when the class is over. They come to the entrance, they go to their primary activity, they go to secondary activity, they depart for the day. At each step in the process, a decision is made and a student will decide where to go. My task is to plan the layout of all spaces logically to create a smooth flow throughout those spaces. I plan to place multiple in-between spaces on both floors so students have to rest, relax, or even socialize. Pulling all this information together, I created my concept statement. The next hub will be a place of comfort and an area of innovation and creativity for students and faculty. The use of lines will enhance rhythm, emphasizing movement throughout the spaces. The split complementary color scheme focuses on providing serenity and security in some spaces and energy and creativity in others. The layout will provide students with a feeling of control within the space by providing a variety of seating and spaces in which to study or socialize. As you can see here are some of the imagery that I was drawn to when developing my concept. I'm currently working in the schematics phase. This phase is where you do your floor plans, some elevation drawings, some of your sketches to figure out what you want this space to really look like. Here's what I currently have as a floor plan. This has changed a bit from my blocking diagrams and my bubble diagrams. As I placed rooms, the puzzle of rooms, all these puzzle pieces, didn't want to fit together nicely when I made sure I had required square footage and the adjacencies to meet the requirements. I anticipate this changing a little bit more as I make decisions on and place furniture and equipment. Some of the changes that were made are location of the stairs to the far opposite side of the space, opposed to the current stairs used for egress. This allowed for more space in the common area. And the second change, to move another room from the 11th floor to the 10th floor, as I couldn't quite fit the last 700 square foot room on the 11th floor and not be crammed. And there's plenty of space that I found on the 10th floor where I could put that space. And since that last space, in this case being the maker space, did not have an acoustic requirement, I felt that it would be best to place that on the 11th floor. Finally, I moved the lockers and printer areas to fit in the remaining space. They're still very accessible on both floors for everyone. They're just not located in the exact same place on both floors. As this is a Steelcase sponsored competition, we're directed to use their furniture lines in specific rooms. The chair is from the Node collection. The active media table is from their verb collection. The power distribution system is part of the thread collection, and the classroom setup that's pictured as part of the Smith system. These are all items that I plan to use within my design. I have a variety of options for wall color right now. I will decide on the final color once I see how everything in the room fits together. As you can see, I've chosen different shades of white, so I don't have an overpowering color on the wall that would detract from the design of the space. I have also looked into commercial grade carpet to put in the classrooms. I found an article that stated students pay better attention in rooms with carpeting. The carpeting reduces the noise of the footsteps and helps with sound dampening within the space. I'm looking at carpet tiles so that they can be easier to replace and more cost effective should something happen to it. I still have a lot of work to do on my project, but I'm excited to develop my project further. Thank you for watching my presentation.